Hello, my name is Dylan, and I'm making this video series on how to make a Pathfinder character. In this video, we'll be covering how to roll for your starting wealth and how to purchase your starting equipment. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do when figuring out what your starting wealth is find either this table, or if you're on the website, it should simply be on the character class page, and then just figure out what you roll and add it up as normal. So as you can see here, a fighter gets 5d6 times 10 gold pieces, and then it averages out at 175. Now for my guys, you are allowed to take average instead of rolling for your wealth, but I have a tendency of living on the wild side, so I'm going to roll for it. Okay, the book said roll 5d6. That means 5 dice with 6 sides. So let's roll this up. Alrighty, so then we add that up. So that's 12, 15, 16, 17. And then it said multiply that by 10. So that's 170. Okay, if you get a bad roll for money, you might not necessarily want to re-roll. If you do want to re-roll, make sure you talk to your DM, let him know the situation, and ask him if it's okay. But the whole point of re-rolling, or of rolling for your wealth, is to make it random and to give you the chance of being either super wealthy and just have all of the best stuff right off the bat, and also having the chance of being really poor and having to struggle through the first couple of levels to make some money. Now, I say struggle, and that's usually considered a bad thing, but it might actually be more entertaining for you to play a poor character than a really rich one. So don't just toss away bad scores and re-roll them right off the bat. Once you have that score, you want to come over to where it says money on your character chart or sheet. It should be the second page, and under GP, write in your total. So GP stands for gold pieces, CP is copper, S is silver, and P is platinum. There are 10 of each increment in the next, so there are 10 copper pieces for every silver piece, 10 silver for every gold, and 10 gold for every platinum. There are a couple of things you want to look at when picking your weapon. First off, find out what category it is. For example, simple weapons include include these two unarmed type weapons. All of these light melee weapons, one-handed, two-handed, and ranged weapons. And then we move on to martial, which includes the same categories, just a little bit more powerful. Certain class types will allow you to gain access to all martial weapons, so you can pick anything in that category. Most class types give you access to all simple weapons, so you can pick anything in that category. Just make sure you're picking weapons from a category that you actually have access to. Also, some classes give you access to specific types of weapons. For instance, I believe druids give you access to all spears, whether they're in martial weapons or simple weapons. And there's another category called exotic weapons. Now, most characters don't gain access to exotic weapons unless they take a feat which allows them to use one specific type of weapon. I'm going to actually be taking the Dwarven War Axe. It is under exotic weapons, but because I'm a dwarf, I get to treat it as a martial weapon, and as a fighter, I gain access to all martial weapons. So I'm going to be using that. So a couple things you want to be looking at when choosing your weapon is first cost. That's how many gold pieces your weapon will cost. Damage, DMG up there. There are two categories for damage: damage small and damage medium. Damage small is if you're a small creature wielding a small version of the weapon. So, for instance, this Dwarven War Axe, if I was, say, a halfling wielding it, I would be able to deal 1d8 worth of damage with that Dwarven War Axe. But because I'm a medium creature, I take damage M, which is 1d10. The next category over is critical. This both gives you the critical range. Usually, if it doesn't say anything, you get a crit if you roll a natural 20 on the dice. This one, for instance, on the Bastard Sword, gives you a 19 to 20. If you roll a 19 or a 20 on the dice, you get a critical hit, assuming... but the 19 is assuming that you still pass their armor class. If you don't pass their armor class with 19, then you don't get a critical, but a 20 is a critical all the time, whether you pass their armor class or not. And then, if you do get a critical, you'll deal 2 times the amount of damage you normally would. So normally you're rolling a d10. If you get a critical hit, you get to roll 2d10. Although some DMs just want you to roll 1d10 and multiply it by 2. The Dwarven War Axe if you get a critical, which with a Dwarven War Axe you can only get on a 20 exactly, then you actually get to roll 3 d10s, or roll 1d10 and multiply it by 3, depending on your DM. Next one over is range. If you're, say, using a bow or a thrown weapon, this tells you how far away you can shoot accurately with it. And then also under the weapon-specific descriptors, there will be range increments, which increase the attack score you need in order to actually hit people who are really far away. Next one is type of damage. So type is split into 3 different categories for weapons. There is S, which is slashing, B, which is bludgeoning, and P, which is piercing. I think I skipped weight, which is just how heavy the weapon is. This is just taken into consideration when you're talking about how much you can carry. And finally, special will add some sort of modifier to a weapon. For instance, a double weapon counts as 2 weapons, so if you're making a full attack action, you can actually attack twice with a double weapon. Disarm and trip. For the chain spike, you can use a chain spike to disarm an opponent, or use it to trip them up, and so on and so forth. Now, before actually purchasing a weapon, you may want to look at the more in-depth description of it, for any special things it might have. You can find this on the website if you just click on the name of the weapon, or in the book you're going to have to look it up. For the example that I'm using here, a Dwarven War Axe, it's got some thematic stuff. It counts as an exotic weapon. A medium character can use a Dwarven War Axe as a 2-handed weapon, but if they can use martial weapons, is what this is saying. Or a large creature can use it as a one-handed in the same way, so also as a martial weapon. But if you're trained in using Dwarven War Axes, or you're a dwarf, in which case you're automatically trained in using Dwarven equipment, a dwarf treats a War Axe as a martial weapon, even when using it one-handed. So other things have different modifiers to them, or different special abilities, so check that out before you purchase. The Dwarven War Axe costs 30 gold, so I'm going to be taking that out of my gold piece count. And then over here, on the first page, under weapons, I'm going to write down War Axe Dwarven. Alrighty, next we want to fill out pretty much everything else that we found on the page. So this weapon will give no attack bonus. Attack bonus increases the likelihood of it hitting, usually only applied to masterwork weapons, which you probably can't afford at this point. Critical, you'd put down ×3, because that's the bonus you get on a critical. The damage was 1d10. This has no types of ammunition. If this was a bow, you'd want to put down the types of arrow you're using and how many you have. It has no range, and the type of damage this one deals is slashing, so you put an S there. Next, we're going to purchase armor and shields. Now, this is a very similar thing to weapons in that there are different categories, such as light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, and then each one has several different armors with different bonuses and the like inside of them. So under the stats of each item, there's cost, just like weapons. There's armor or shield bonus, which will increase your armor class by whatever that says. So for instance, the scale mail, which is what I'm going to be purchasing, costs 50 gold and will give me +5 on my AC. That's armor class. Also maximum dex bonus. Armor will hinder your character, and so the maximum dexterity modifier you can have is +3 with scale mail, which is fine because I only have a +0. Armor check penalty -4 means that whenever I'm doing some physical skills, this may apply to the modifier. One thing you always want to be remembering as a spellcaster, if you are a spellcaster, is arcane spell failure chance increases the heavier the armor you're wearing or the bigger the shield, and is added on to each other. Speed modifier, this will change how fast your character can move, how many squares he can move on his turn if he's wearing this armor. So if my dwarf is wearing scale mail, he would normally have to reduce his movement to 15 feet from 20 feet. But fortunately, dwarves have an ability called slow and steady, which means that they can wear heavier armor without it reducing their movement. And then weight is just how heavy the thing is. Now, just like weapons, each of these pieces of armor and shields does have its own little section that you can check out. So you might want to check that out just in case there's something there. I'm going to be purchasing the scale mail and a tower shield. So as you can see, I've reduced my gold capacity by 80 because that was the cost of the tower shield and the scale mail, and I've written in all of the information on those items up under AC items. So first, just to go over this, first you put down the name, you put down the AC bonus it gives you, the type of armor it is, so this is medium armor, this is a shield, the check penalty. Now these add up, so long as I'm holding the shield and wearing the armor I get -14. If I decide to drop my shield, I only get -4 to my check penalty. Spell failure, these also add up. I have a 75% chance of whenever I cast a spell, it just won't happen, so I'm not going to be casting many spells, fortunately. And then weight will go into how heavy your character is. Once you figured out what armor and shield you're going to be using, you want to take those bonuses and throw them over under AC. So in AC, you have the armor bonus, which for scale mail is 5, and the shield bonus, which for a tower shield is 4. Last session we also threw in dexterity and size modifier. Certain creatures have natural armor, which dwarves don't. There's also a deflection modifier, which you can get from certain abilities, and also a miscellaneous modifier, which you can possibly get from other sorts of equipment, or possibly enchantments or the like. And then you just want to add all of these up and throw them into the left category. Also, you want to add 10 to whatever total you get. So my total is 5 plus 4, which is 9, plus 10, which is 19. So my AC score is 19. On top of your total AC, which for me is 19, you also have flat-footed AC and touch AC. Now, flat-footed AC is what your armor class would be if you didn't have your dexterity, which for me is the same as with dexterity, seeing as how I have no dexterity. Touch is what your armor class would be if you didn't have an armor or a shield. So for me, that makes 10, because I have no dexterity. One thing that almost every class gets is 10 gold points worth of clothing, so you might want to take a look at this little area here and pick out an outfit that is 10 gold or less, and this way your character doesn't have to wear his armor to bed. And you just write down what you buy here. One thing about your starting outfit is you do get 10 gold or less worth of starting outfit but say you only spent 5 of that gold, you do not get the excess gold and put that into your purse. This is just the normal clothing you wear when you're not in armor. Now, I hope you saved some money over for other gear, because you're going to need more than just a weapon and some armor and a shield in order to go adventuring. So, for instance, you might want a bedroll to sleep on, possibly even a tent to give you a little bit of shelter, you know, maybe a collapsible bathtub because you need to stay clean. One thing that I would definitely recommend to everyone is purchasing rope. Every adventurer needs some rope. Purchasing goods is a little easier than purchasing a weapon. All you do is find out what you want. Let's say I want some hemp rope. You find out its gold costs 10 gold. You find out its poundage, weighs 5 pounds. You go over to your character sheet, subtract 10 gold from this. If your item costs silver or copper, just remember there are 10 copper in every silver, 10 silver in every gold, and 10 gold in every platinum. And then you just go up here and write it down. So I would write down under Explorer's Outfit, hemp rope, and it weighed 5 pounds. Just like in weapons and armor, most of these things do have a little bit of a descriptor. There are some that don't. I recently discovered bucket does not have a descriptor, but that's pretty straightforward. So you might want to read this, just find out specifics on what it does, and then go about your purchasing. Another section that may have caught your eye is mounts and related gear. So here you can purchase horses and the like. You probably can't afford a horse right off the bat, but you might be able to afford a pony to carry your stuff. You're also going to be wanting a saddle or something to rig it up so that it can carry your bags, but you can purchase this at the beginning as well. Just throw it over in your gear just like everything else, but your DM might want you to make up a character sheet specifically for your horse or whatever. It won't be as dramatic, it might even be just on the back of this page, giving its hit points and strength and the like. Alrighty, now you have finished your mundane character. You can go into the Pathfinder world and go and slay some villains. One thing I need to mention before you log off is when you were looking for your weapons and armor, you may have noticed that there are some magic weapons and armor. 2 things. 1, you cannot purchase magical weapons or armor as starting equipment. 2nd, you might want to actually stay out of looking at them, because the DM might want to give you something a little bit surprising, and if you already know about it, then it's a little bit of a bummer. Yeah, so just potions are generally okay. You generally can purchase potions as starting equipment, but no like fiery daggers or anything like that. If you are making a magic character, a spellcaster, you might want to check out my next video, which is going to be on picking spells, and that would have actually correlated better with the class section, but, you know, you're going to be watching videos. You can watch them in any order you want. So, yeah, have fun in the Pathfinder universe. I hope you've enjoyed this series, and have a good one.